Man, honestly, I just don't know how you play the game at this point.
Nobody does. Nobody knows. It's official. You are no longer allowed to tackle in the NFL. The fundamental element of the sport we all love, gone forever. All right, maybe that's dramatic, but now that I've got your attention, it's time to address the NFL's egregious attempt to remove hitting from the sport of football. Even as its legends like Tom Brady and J.J. Watt criticize the league, the NFL doesn't seem to care.
I look at a lot of players like Ray Lewis and Rodney Harrison and Ronnie Lott, guys that impacted the game in a certain way, and every hit they would have made would have been a penalty.
Maybe we shouldn't be taking the guy's entire paycheck. I mean, he's playing for free.
The league is slowly chipping away, trying to remove one of the things that makes the game unique. I honestly believe this is one of the biggest threats the game faces in terms of keeping the product far and above anything else America has to offer, save for maybe McDonald's. You think McDonald's cares if its product is bad for you? No. The way the NFL is trying to regulate hitting is attuned to the UFC deciding fighters are now only allowed to throw punches if their punches hit opponent in the right shoulder only. This is your new punching target. This last football season, we watched as the league suspended Kareem Jackson twice for roughly half the year, costing him nearly $1 million. The Steelers' Kazee ejected and then suspended for the rest of the season. And a disgusting rise in player fines for offensive skill players, for blocking or running the football. Today, I'll show you how bad this problem is, the dark football future ahead, and how the NFL can fix it. Sort of. We're going balls deep into the softening of the NFL. We're gonna play a fun little game today. I'm gonna show you this clip throughout the episode, and you let me know when you see where the egregious hit that warrants an insane fine is, okay? You see it? No? Now, I like this point that J.J. Watt made.
Whenever you think about this type, there's one right there. Running back is getting fined for that hit right there. Go back to the beginning. Running back, boom, you'll miss it. Yep, that. Fine.
Yeah, you will miss it.
What?
Anytime you got to watch the play 10 times to figure out which person is getting fined, I think you messed up.
If you have to look at a play and dissect it more than the Zapruder film to see where someone made an infraction, it shouldn't be a fine. By week 11 of the 2023 season, the NFL had doled out 160 more fines than it had in 2022 and exceeded its total amount of fines, hitting $15.6 million, which could buy you about one season of Christian McCaffrey. Now, the NFL is acting like rent is due and the landlord is banging on the door.
You'll get your rent when you fix this damn door!
Another post suggests that through week 14, the NFL hit $5 million in-game fines, up from $1.6 million in 2022. I also read on the official NFLPA website that 150 fines were reduced upon appeal in 2022, and 100 were rescinded, which means the NFL got it wrong 250 times. Do you understand how alarming that is? The fact that a hearing officer has to look and reduce or rescind 250 fines in a season is a problem.
Maybe we shouldn't be taking the guy's entire paycheck. I mean, he's playing for free. He's literally going out there and playing for free 2 weeks in a row.
Now, I started paying attention to this storyline because of Kareem Jackson, but had my bullshit meter rekindled by the Kazee suspension. Now, the NFL suspended Steelers safety Kazee for the last 3 games of the regular season for this hit on Michael Pittman. A hit I don't like, and one I acknowledge that was a scary hit, one that makes you sick to your stomach when you see it. But it's also fair to wonder what Kazee was supposed to do in this situation. He doesn't lead with his helmet, he doesn't leap at him, and if he tries to dive and catch the ball, they probably both end up getting even more injured. So like many other hits, it's the defender that's put in an awkward situation by the quarterback and wide receiver to keep them safe. To be clear, I support the penalty in this situation, and I'm totally okay with the ejection from this situation because in real time, this shit looks bad. What I'm questioning is how the NFL looks at this later, slowed down, with context, and finds no leeway for Kazee. The NFL is asking defenders to literally just let receivers make catches in these situations, which is an insult to the game. And there were even comments like, just let him catch the ball. I get the sentiment and the good intentions, but that fundamentally changes the nature of football if players are able to essentially get freebies. And I don't think defenders have the time to consider the wide receiver's safety and say, you know what, I'm just going to let him catch the ball here. It goes against everything they've been coached to do their entire life. Also, if they just let a dude catch the ball, they just won't have a fucking job. Kazee appealed the suspension, got denied, and now he has to miss the rest of the season unless the Pittsburgh Steelers find their way into the playoffs. And good luck with that, with starting Mason Rudolph the rest of the way. Yeah, I left a pause there just to give it a couple seconds in case someone wants to clip that in 3 weeks to send to freezing cold takes. Of course, right as Kazee gets suspended, we see the return of Kareem Jackson for the first time in a month, so total equilibrium. Now here's that clip again from the beginning of the show. Do you see where the $43,000 fine is? Look closely. Let's talk about running backs before we get to Kareem Jackson, though. Here's the thing that scares me the most about what the NFL is doing. It's now fining running backs for lowering their shoulders and attempting to make plays. This is no longer an issue for just defenders, which I will elaborate on a little bit later. This season, Josh Jacobs has been fined a couple times for lowering his shoulder and or head twice. I think he won one of his appeals. Steelers running back Jaylen Warren has been fined twice, and Javonte Williams has been fined. Guys who we unanimously praise for their running style now losing money because of it. And remember, running backs are already poverty-stricken, getting their food from the NFL bread lines, and the league is going out of their way to steal even more money from these basically homeless players. Not a single one of these running backs were flagged for any of these plays that they got fined on. Yet the NFL went back, took money out of their pockets for literally trying to play football, breaking tackles and fighting for yards. Meanwhile, Neville Gilmore was fined less than all of those running backs for kicking Justin Pugh squarely in the dick, which means the NFL doesn't care about your penis. Sorry. This is a league I loved. And they don't care about a man's penis. I can't. Now, Jaylen Warren also won Kyle Brandt's angry run scepter. So the NFL is highlighting his hard, angry running style while also fining him for it. Is that hypocrisy? And Warren has been fined $96,889. As an undrafted free agent, he's making a base salary of $870,000. The good news is he can use that $96K as a tax write-off. The bad news, the NFL taking $100K away from a dude making $870,000 is robbery. Robbery so egregious, even Chiefsaholic is like, that seems steep. What's worse though, a running back lowering his shoulder and possibly making helmet-to-helmet contact, or the NFL taking 1/8 of a man's salary away?
Highway robbery.
Basically, the NFL wants Jaylen Warren to run the way George Pickens blocks. Now, the NFL Network's own Tom Pelissero was reporting on these fines every week. And as these actions gained more and more negative attention, guess what happened? He stopped. Did the NFL stop fining players? No, I think Tom has been silenced. I think, allegedly. And if you don't know, player fines don't go back to the league, kinda. They go to charitable causes, kinda. Where the money goes, though, was negotiated by the CBA, meaning the players' union and NFL agreed to these terms, okay? So the players only have themselves to blame. Here's the kicker, though. What charities are those? Well, one is the NFL Player Care Foundation, which provides financial, medical, and emotional assistance to retired NFL players. Cool, right? The NFL's actually just using current player salaries to pay former players struggling with injuries suffered while playing the game. That seems kind of weird, right? Why do I bring that up? Maybe because a federal lawsuit was filed against Goodell and the league leaders for alleging that the NFL's disability program kept players from receiving payouts for injuries sustained while playing the game. Furthermore, NFL players are only covered by the NFL's health insurance program for 5 years after playing, and former NFL players are going to need a lot of health care because the game's dangerous. So a guy like Jaylen Warren could possibly use that $100,000 the NFL took away from him to pay for his health care after the NFL hangs him out to dry with coverage. and you only get 5 years of that coverage if you're a vested player, and to be a vested player, you need 3 credited seasons in the NFL. Player fines and the rookie pay scale are 2 of the biggest scams the NFL has pulled off on its players. If Jaylen Warren suffers a career-ending injury this season, he will have lost $100,000. Well, more because he was also fined in 2022, but he will have lost over $100K in salary to fines, and then he wouldn't get the 5 years of health coverage because he wouldn't be vested. Maybe he'd get that disability if the NFL, doesn't deny his claim. Here's that clip again. Do you see where the $43,000 fine is? I've shown it to you 3 times now. Kareem Jackson, though, was drafted back in 2010.
So long ago that this is the highest resolution photo they have from Kareem Jackson's draft. This is literally on the Texans website.
He grew up watching players like Ray Lewis and John Lynch and was coming of age in the NFL when hits like this were still being made. He's now 35 years young. No boomer, he is not. He's still well under 200 pounds, and after transitioning from corner to safety later in his career, he's the most unassuming enforcer in the league. He's like Clint Eastwood in his 2-hour get-off-my-lawn masterpiece, Gran Torino.
If I have to come back here, it's gonna get fucking ugly.
This is a hit he made against his former team in 2019. No flag.
Our guy, Kareem Jackson, been out there laying wood.
That was just 5 seasons ago. No penalty. Here's a hit from 2020. Again, no penalty. I don't think Kareem Jackson has changed his style of play in any way. The NFL has, and it's the guys who have been playing this game for a while as a pro that are having a hard time adjusting. This is Kareem to the NFL telling him to tackle differently, but then not really telling him how.
Still looking for clarity on the rules. A lot of gray area when it comes to the rules that has been put in place, in my opinion. Nothing's black and white. I've had several conversations with Ryan, Derek Brooks, and still hang up the phone with no answers.
Speaking of those guys, I'm sure they never did anything that would be considered dirty, right?
This is John Runyon.
Holy shit!
Okay, maybe the it takes one to no one approach is actually smart by the NFL.
I'm unsure as to how I play the game going forward.
And one thing to keep in mind, all right, the player fines and how they're dished out was negotiated in the CBA. But what the NFL decides to fine every year is up to them. So players don't have control on a year-to-year basis, which is kind of a loophole in the CBA when you think about it. Now, Kareem Jackson becoming $1 million poorer started with this hit against Jacoby Myers week 1. Notice the flag coming into frame after Myers went down. This wasn't good to see, obviously. We don't want to see head injuries. Nobody's advocating for that. And because Myers had time to make the move and slide down, he's not a defenseless player either.
But why does this result in a helmet-to-helmet collision? It's because Jacoby Myers slips or kind of slides to the ground here. His body becomes very low to the ground. Kareem Jackson is coming into this hit with a very low target. If you're looking at Kareem's target zone on this hit, he is aiming very low. He is coming in with his shoulder very low, which means his intent is not to hit Jacoby Myers in the helmet. It's a result of a wet, slippery field and 2 guys playing football.
A week later, Jackson hit Commanders tight end Logan Thomas in the end zone, and I'm not going to defend this play at all. Jackson leaves his feet, launches himself at Thomas, and even though you can see him turning his head and trying to lead with his shoulder does go into Thomas's helmet.
But this Logan Thomas hit is actually the best example of how confusing this shit is, because I think this is the worst hit. Here's former NFL player Brennan Scarlett and current NFL player DJ Reader talking about how they don't think this hit is actually that bad.
I love the way that Kareem Jackson plays, and I think that you make a great point of like how we supposed to turn it off, and we're talking about like split second decisions. The hit that he had this past game, was like if it was a split second earlier, it would have been okay.
So when Kareem Jackson says
a lot of gray area when it comes to the rules,
I think this is a very, very poignant example of that. We can all look at the same hit and walk away with very different conclusions.
The problem, though, is once you've made a hit the NFL doesn't like, you're under the microscope. But let's fast forward a few weeks to when the Packers came to Denver. And to be honest, I thought this was bullshit, okay? This is the hit Jackson was initially suspended for. Head turned, no part of his helmet hits Luke Musgrave's helmet. His shoulder went into Musgrave's chest, but Musgrave went flying because Kareem Jackson was running really fast at that point and Musgrave was not. And that's called physics, okay? That's just science. But of course, Jackson was ejected, fined, and suspended without pay for 4 games originally, and eventually had that reduced to 2 games after an appeal. Many of Kareem Jackson's teammates, including team leader Justin Simmons, have been out speaking on his behalf. They're defending his character, his honor, which needs to be done because he's a good fucking dude. But within that, they also shed light on another problem. The NFL is not consistent in enforcing these things, right? If they were fining every single player making hits they don't want in the game, we couldn't really argue because they'd be doing it across the board. But here's Cortland Sutton, who took a hit exactly like the one Josh Dobbs did. No fine, no consistency. Again, a helmet-to-helmet hit that wasn't even flagged in the Broncos-Lions game right here. So Jackson comes back, and on the 3rd play during his return, the Vikings call one of the stupidest plays I've ever seen. There was once a time when lining up your quarterback at running back wouldn't have happened, because NFL play callers knew if you turned your QB into a running back, he's going to get fucking hit like one. Dobbs is not a quarterback on this play. He is a running back, and Dobbs doesn't get special protection as he would as a quarterback. And part of the strategy of football is avoiding situations like this, not making them available to defenders. That play did not draw a flag, but Kareem Jackson got suspended for 4 games anyway. Here's Kareem Jackson discussing what he learned from his suspension.
I guess lowering my target even more than I have. As far as trying to protect the guy on the other side, it's impossible. I have no clue as to how I'm supposed to do that.
Cool. Nothing. And I think Tom Brady explained it a lot better than I could.
I look at a lot of players like Ray Lewis and Rodney Harrison and Ronnie Lott and guys that impacted the game in a certain way, and every hit they would have made would have been a penalty. You hear coaches complaining about their own player being tackled and not necessarily, why don't they talk to their player about how to protect himself? We used to work on the fundamentals of those things all the time. Now they're trying to be regulated all the time. Offensive players need to protect themselves. It's not up to a defensive player to protect the offensive player. A defensive player needs to protect himself. I didn't throw the ball to certain areas because I was afraid players were going to get knocked out. That's the reality. Wow. I didn't throw it to the middle when I played Ray Lewis because you knock him out of the game, and I couldn't afford to lose a good player.
And aside from blatantly dirty hits, it is on an offensive player to protect himself. It's on the quarterback to not throw hospital balls. It's on the coaches to not pitch the ball to your starting quarterback in the backfield. That's stupid, and coaches knew that a decade ago. But now we shift the blame to the defense for doing what they've always done. Brady doubled down on that stance, by the way, with the Kazee suspension.
For me, it's pretty simple. If 2 Hall of Fame caliber players are going out of their way to bitch about this, maybe we should listen to them. Maybe the NFL should listen to them.
Look, if the officials want to throw a flag because a hit looks dirty in real time, I understand that. I think everyone does. Despite creating the world's hottest selling copy, fuck the refs, I actually sympathize with them making these calls at full speed, at ground level, in real time, because it's violent out there. What I find troubling is the NFL looking back at these hits after the fact and still fining and then suspending guys. The intent is not malicious, and I think that part's important. They also got linebacker Denzel Perryman for 3 games based on these hits. As J.J. Watt pointed out, the league also tried to paint Perryman as a dirty player under the guise of repeated violations. And that's the same label that got applied to Kareem Jackson. Kyle Hamilton was ejected for this hit. Emmanuel Forbes was ejected for this hit. I think the Kyle Hamilton hit, ejectable. I do not think Emmanuel Forbes hit here warranted an ejection. A penalty? Sure. But an ejection is too much. The simplest solution for the ejection process is the booth official making the call. They have the benefit of seeing the play from multiple angles. They can slow it down, dissect it, take their time with it, and get the call right. See what the intent was. And the notion that it's up to defensive players to protect offensive players is step 1 in removing fucking tackling. The NFL, though, has succeeded in making the game safer. And I honestly think the league doesn't have any headhunters anymore. Not like it used to, where safeties and linebackers lived to take tight ends and wide receivers, or any poor soul catching balls over the middle out of the games. So one last time, did you see it? Did you see where the egregious hit happened? It was right here. Lions receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown fined $43,709 initially for this block. I don't know if it was rescinded because I was too lazy to look it up, but this is the equivalent of your employer fining you $1,000 for dropping a fucking stapler at work.
I believe you have my stapler.
So yes, JJ, that is indeed stealing. And please, Tom, JJ, more Hall of Fame caliber players, keep speaking up. You're our only hope to save the game. Thanks for watching That's Good Sports. Deep dive into hits, hitting, and why the NFL is in trouble. And also, if you watch JJ or Tom, leave a comment. Huh? Come on. The best way to stop them is to make this video blow up, guys. Ball's in your court, JJ.